Hey, welcome back to Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny.
And today we're going to take a look at Hindenburg Research. Now, you have important people in the market where, let's say, for instance, Nancy Pelosi, if she goes long with a lot of money, people will follow her and she's magically right. Somehow. No one knows. We still haven't figured it out. Hindenburg Research we're going to look at it, but they tear companies apart and they short them to hell. So my thought was, could you just follow them in a trade like you could follow Nancy in a trade and get a high return, right? Doesn't work always. Nothing's 100%. But I thought this is pretty interesting. Do you know Hindenburg Research?
I have heard of some of their reports, very scathing, and they often are correct. After following them, the stocks drop precipitously, and then the Department of Justice comes in and destroys the company. It's like very self-fulfilling prophecy as far as Hindenburg Research negative short reports.
Yeah. So basically, the way that I'm looking at this is that I'm trying to see if this can be another tool in the tool belt, right? So, like, as an example, when Warren Buffett bought Oxy, I looked at Oxy. I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. I'm going to buy some Oxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nancy Pelosi, not going to go there. She's right a lot. Somehow. So Hindenburg, who also famously did a report on Nikola when Nikola was at $90. This is before the stock splits. I don't know what that would be now.
2000.
2000? Okay, when they were at pseudo $2,000 a share, essentially saying this is a fraudulent company. So they have all these reports. You could see that they're not, this is April, this is June, 2 in August, then you don't have one since March. A lot of these, they come fairly infrequently. So I'm trying to see, we have data at the end here where I looked at every single one they did for the last 3 years and what would have happened if you shorted them a week after, a month after, 6 months after, a year after. Okay? To see, would you have beat the market, which, by the way, these are for trades. Probably better off just going the Qs or observe SPY. This is different money. But it's pretty interesting here. They have a wide array of stuff that they do. So, like, I'm going to talk with this company, Axos. So, like, this one, it's just glaring real estate loan problems, lax underwriting. Okay? That's not crazy ridiculous. But then they range to something like miracle curs and murder for hire. How a spoon-bending Turkish magician built a $600 million NASDAQ scam. Just
Seems legitimate to me.
Yeah, it's actually wild. I read this one. So they cover everything from, like, there's another one where a guy left China, changed his name, is running a company, and he's also tried to kill someone, to, hey, this company's overvalued, right? So everything in between. It is pretty interesting how they do this. They've been going since, I think it was 2017, but they just look for accounting irregularities, bad actors in management, this kind of stuff. They have their track record here, but as I suspected, this is their best of their best.
Right? Oh, they cherry pick their own data, huh?
Yeah. So that's why I was like, all right, well, what if I grabbed every press release they did for the last 3 years and see how we do? All right. So obviously this is very, very cherry picked. Now let me move the screen, and this is going to look very confusing. Okay. Let me move your face. So I'm going to explain this. Let me shrink our faces. So Hindenburg Research. Okay. Can you see my mouse? There we go.
Yeah.
All right. This is every press release from the last one, August 29th, to the beginning of 2021. So they just did the last 3 years. Okay. Now, as you can imagine, which I'll show you, when they do an article, the market or that stock immediately tanks. It's usually pretty hardcore. They have enough of a reputation where there's no such thing as a good reaction to your company being named by them. So the thought is, well, if they already tanked because of the article, there's not enough time to digest it. Is it even worth shorting? Okay, so this is the stock price for all of these the day the article dropped. 1 week later, you have red, as in the stock price went higher, so you would have lost money had you bought a put. 0 to 20% decrease in yellow, because if you were to buy a put, you're going to have time value issues. Okay, so you if you're going to do these, you want them to be really, really right. Okay, and then green, they dropped 21% or more. All right, so looking at all these, by the way, this non-banned one, this is incredible. They're dead. Like a day after it was released, the SEC froze their assets. So can't look at that one. There's like two more in here, but one was in Switzerland and one was in China, and they weren't on our market, so couldn't put it in. But basically, when you look at the red here, a lot of red in this area, this is 1 week and 1 month after the article drops. Okay? So as I was gathering this data, it was pretty evident that 1 week after these drops, most of the stocks rebounded a little bit. Okay, so if you were to be like, oh man, this sounds terrible, like a Nikola situation, I want to short this, it would not be smart to do it the next day. It is usually a bad call. They actually, almost all of them rebounded a decent amount. All right, it wasn't exactly a week, that's an arbitrary number, but they almost all rebounded from the initial horrible response. Okay. So 1 month in, you're starting to have over 20% value. It gets better at 6 months and even better at 1 year. Now, the reason why this is so green over here is because these 6 month, 1 year, 1 month timelines are completely arbitrary, right? You can have the stock market or the stock tank 2 months in, and you could have gotten your money and then left, and then it'll still show, red, for instance, for this one, right? This was ESTA, Establishment Labs. Whereas if you took the absolute low, you can see that most of these dropped more than 20%. All right? At some point within 12 months. The vast majority of these were within like 4 months, but within 12 months. I wrote tank next to these if they dropped more than 50% after the article. Okay? Very, very important. After the article. Look at these numbers. Down 87%. This company's essentially dead now, by the way. Down 87, down 80, down 96. This is definitely not what the share price was, but they pulled a Nikola and did a bunch of offerings. So, share price of 59,630, down 93, down 78, down 52, down 61. These ones, we don't have enough data on because they've, it's been 6 days since this one's been open. It's been 9 days. This has only been open since June. So it is, to me, a really interesting tool to have because the vast majority of the time, not all the time, but a vast majority of the time, you could wait for the initial come up after the bad article happens. Usually a lot of these, if you're good at charting, we're hitting the 9 EMA on the way back. Start a short and almost all the time have a great profit, which is pretty awesome. Now, granted, no one's going to play this perfectly, right? I'll just sell when it hits 80% for this one, right? That's not realistic. Yeah. So the big problem here would be greed. You could just wait for a 20% drop and then sell or get rid of your puts, and you would be successful the vast majority of the time, like really, really easily. The problem here is one big thing. Some of these spiked up really high. So if you had entered, that spike would be terrifying. You'd have to sit through that. I don't know how good that would be. And then the other, if anyone was interested in me doing this, I can. The other factor here is some of these companies, like I showed, like Axos, it was more, hey, this company's horribly overvalued. And then you have this company. The CEO tried to murder someone and committed fraud. So slightly different. Yeah. Well, not ideal. Yeah. I'm going to show
apples, pine trees. Not really quite the same thing.
Now this Axos, so this started in June. Okay. Now the article dropped. They hit 50.25, and they're actually still above that as of right now. This one's very, very interesting. I'm going to show you why.
Well, I saw the snippet headline. It said something about commercial loan portfolio, something along those lines. So it's just something we talked about separately.
Yes.
Potentially being a area of pain in the coming economic cycle, I guess.
Yes, I think they're early. That's why I think this one's awesome. Oh, so here's super microcomputers. Article dropped right here, and that's still floating down. Now the key would be when you buy options, this high volume is going to hurt you. You're going to pay a premium for
Mhm.
that, so you got to be careful. But like
Yeah, that
AX,
applied volatility
Axios,
shoots up.
yeah. So this is the day of the article. So they actually opened all the way down here and went straight up. No one cared at all, right? So this would be one that would be really, really tricky. The key would be just sell it after it went above the 9 EMA. But this is looking pretty sexy as a short to me. Not now. Not now. I'm going to clarify. But maybe like 6 months from now, when there's more commercial real estate that's becoming more mature, when a lot
Okay.
of those loans are up for. Let me move this. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something, so basically you're adding a ticker symbol to your potentially short list for like a future trade. It's kind of the idea we have behind this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's another tool, just like when Nancy Pelosi bought Broadcom. So I'm like, all right, I'll buy a little
Yeah.
bit, right?
All right. I mean,
It's
we could do a separate video looking at the actual short report and then, analyzing it. I think it might be interesting if
it
people want to see that.
dude, they go in depth. They will always interview employees, like 15 or more that left. They go crazy. They know everything about each person in the C-suite. Like I was impressed reading these reports. They
Yeah.
tracked a guy from each country with different names he was using somehow.
Nice.
I don't even know it's possible. But I do think this is interesting and could be a really cool tool in your tool belt, if that makes sense. If you're good enough at charting, this could be a decent way to make side money. Throwing out there.
Yeah. You start following them on X so you can see when they put out their next short report.
I did. Yep.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah,
That's the way to go,
100%.
man.
All right, guys.
All right. Let us know if you want to see that deeper dive. We can take a look at it.
Yeah.